Well, folks, it seems the trade war drums are beating a little louder tonight. Canada has just announced it's hitting back against the US, imposing retaliatory tariffs on almost $30 billion worth of American goods. This comes as a direct response to the Trump administration's decision to slap tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, a move that has left many scratching their heads and others reaching for their wallets. The Canadians, it seems, are opting for the latter. The relationship between the US and Canada has always been complicated. We're like siblings who share a bedroom wall, close enough to hear each other breathe, and also close enough to drive each other completely insane. But this latest spat over trade has the potential to turn a sibling rivalry into a full-blown family feud, and nobody wants to see Thanksgiving dinner devolve into a tariff-fueled food fight. The Canadian government has made it clear that these tariffs are not their preferred course of action. They've repeatedly stressed that a trade war benefits no one, and that a negotiated solution is the best way forward. However, they've also made it clear that they won't back down from a fight, especially when they believe they're in the right. The big question now is how the US will respond. Will the Trump administration see these tariffs as a wake-up call, a sign that their go-it-alone approach to trade is backfiring, or will they double down, escalating the conflict and risking a full-blown trade war? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure. This is a story that's far from over. Buckle up, folks, it's going to be a bumpy ride. So, what exactly are these tariffs, and who will they impact? Well, Canada isn't pulling any punches. They've carefully selected a list of American goods that are sure to grab attention, and they're hitting them where it hurts. The wallet. We're talking a 25% tariff on things like steel, computers, and even sports equipment. That's right, folks. Your fantasy football league might be about to get a whole lot more expensive. Now, the US isn't exactly innocent in all of this. They fired the first shot, so to speak, with their own tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. These tariffs, which came into effect on March 12, 2025, were justified by the Trump administration on the grounds of national security. Yes, you heard that right, national security. Apparently, cheap Canadian steel poses a greater threat to American democracy than, say, Russian interference in elections or climate change. Who knew? The EU, never one to miss out on a good old-fashioned trade dispute, has also jumped into the fray. They've announced their own retaliatory tariffs on $28 billion worth of American imports, including iconic products like Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Jack Daniel's whiskey. It seems the land of free trade is quickly turning into the land of trade, but only on our terms. The reaction to this trade spat has been about as subtle as a sledgehammer. Canadian and EU leaders have been quick to condemn the US tariffs, calling them unjustified, counterproductive, and just plain dumb. They argue that these tariffs will harm businesses and consumers on both sides of the border, while doing little to address the underlying issues they claim to solve. Meanwhile, back in the US, the reaction has been a bit more mixed. Some, like those in the steel and aluminum industries, have applauded the tariffs, arguing that they're necessary to protect American jobs and industries from foreign competition. Others, however, have expressed concerns that these tariffs will ultimately backfire, leading to higher prices for consumers, job losses in other sectors, and retaliation from trading partners. Adding another layer of intrigue to this whole mess is Mexico. They're currently playing the waiting game, trying to decide how they'll respond to the US tariffs. Will they follow Canada and the EU's lead and retaliate with tariffs of their own? Or will they try to negotiate a separate deal with the US, potentially driving a wedge between the NAFTA partners? So, where do we go from here? Honestly, folks, it's anyone's guess. This trade spat is just the latest symptom of a much larger trend, the unraveling of the global trading order that has underpinned the world economy for decades. With rising protectionism, simmering trade tensions, and a distinct lack of leadership on the world stage, it's hard to be optimistic about the future of free and fair trade. The big question is whether this is just a blip on the radar, a temporary detour on the road to greater global integration, or the beginning of a more permanent shift towards protectionism and economic nationalism. If it's the latter, we could be in for a bumpy ride, with higher prices, slower growth, and increased geopolitical instability. One thing is for sure, the stakes are high. The decisions made by leaders in the coming weeks and months will have far-reaching consequences for businesses, consumers, and the global economy as a whole. So, let's hope they know what they're doing, because right now, it doesn't feel like it.